Oh, hello. Welcome to another Tabletop Impulse video. Today we're going to do my quick rundown on the Gellerpox Infected. So we've been trying to go through all four of the new teams that have just dropped. This is the third out of the four. Let's get straight into it. So, the Gellerpox Infected. First thing to say is they get security and seek and destroy. I think security is a great archetype. As I've discussed in some of my other videos recently, I think it will struggle a little bit in the Gallodark, in the dark. But it's a great archetype for overworld, open world, OG kill team, whatever we're calling it. Seek and Destroy is not my favourite, but it might be good for this team. I do have a question mark over where the security, like, this team is really well picked to be. It's tipped to be a really dominant team by a lot of people. Security doesn't seem to fit their background and lore and fluff to me. You know, because they're like wibbly, chargy, attacky, slaughtery beasts. Guarding and being sentries doesn't, to me, seem to fit their theme. Let me know what you think down below. But it's a bit strange to me that they have security, but it does make the team good. Like the Star Striders, they're pretty much fixed list. So you've got Vulgar Thrice Cursed, Bloat Spawn, Flesh Screamer, and Lumberghast. Those are your four Hulks. Vulgar Thrice Cursed is your leader, and then the other three are named Hulks. Then you've got three Gellerpox mutants, one of them with a heavy axe, which is pretty cool, and two of them with improvised weapons and mutated limbs. And all three of those have frag grenades, which is pretty cool, give you a little bit of ranged. And you got four Glitchlings, who are like the little nurgling things with funny little hats and little swords. And then you will also know, if you buy this set, you get 16, I think. No, 12 extra little tiny things. You can use between 0 and 4 of those. They come as equipment. So it's 11 models here, plus realistically you're always going to take 4 extra models. So it's 15 models. If you have the box, you have every option you'll ever need. There's no need to ever buy a second box. So it is a true one-box team, just like the Star Striders. Yeah, let's get into it. So, abilities. So they're a pretty ability-light... Like we can kind of think of the teams in Kill Team. You've got the teams that have weak stats and loads of abilities, and the abilities take ages to go through, like the Rogue Traders. It tends to be the teams I enjoy. Not that I'm good with, but it tends to be the teams I enjoy. The Vitiates, the Rogue Traders are teams with loads of abilities, and the individual models are quite weak. This is a team where the individual models can be quite strong, but the abilities quite short. So they've got Techno Curse, which is their only real novel ability. While an enemy operative is within blue of friendly operatives with this ability, or within red if it's a Glitchling, the little nurgling fellas, you subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of its ranged weapons. Now this is pretty good. It's a pretty good ability. It can be very good. Be very mindful in the dark. It can't go through walls because you can never measure through walls, which kind of means it has limited utility. Because I guess the number one time this will come up is when you get someone on the other side. I think of like a big Octarius wall. If you get like a little Glitchling and you measure through the wall and you can debuff someone else's ranged weapon, whereas in the dark, if you're close enough, you're probably also in line of sight, you're probably going to get thumped. You know, it is less of a thing. So be mindful of that. And then Revoltingly Resilient, which is the same as Disgustingly Resilient, which is the same as Feel No Pain. It's a 5-up Feel No Pain. Okay, so good. Vulgar Thrice Curse. So Vulgar Thrice Curse is your leader. He's the one with a fire in his belly. Vulgar Thrice Cursed has 19 wounds. That's a lot of wounds. He moves 3, APL 2, GA 1, Def 3, a 5-up save, but he also has that 5-up Disgustingly Resilient as well. He has a ranged weapon called Pyre Gut. 6 dice, hitting on 2s, 3/3. Range red torrent, so he's got like it's a pretty good flamethrowery thing. And he's got his flesh melded weapons, which is 5 dice, hitting on 3s, 4/5, engineered. So this is like the Phobos veteran guy, where you can choose when you deploy him which of these upgrades that you want. Now, so you can either have +1 normal damage to make it 5/5. So you choose 2. So you can have Your weapon have +1 normal damage, +1 crit damage. You can get it balanced, you can get it brutal, you can get it lethal 5-up, you can get it rending. I think I like lethal 5-up and +1 crit. So you're trying to get those 6s, because for me, combat is all about getting your first hit to be as big as you can get it, right? So that hopefully you can one hit somebody, you know, if they've been wounded, if you take 6 off them, or at least to make sure that you get your 1 hit in, and then you take 1 hit back, and then with your second hit you're killing them, and it gives you the ability to do your crit is 12 damage then, which is pretty cool. If you've got thoughts in the comment about when, obviously you can look at your opponent's army, you can look at the number of wounds that they typically have, and you can think about, actually, well, I don't need to boost this, that doesn't get me over a threshold, because it is when you deploy it. You know, you can choose. So if you really go deep into this team, if they become your main team and you want to think about it, you will come up with your own sort of mental flowchart for going, okay, I'm playing against these guys, they got this many wounds, they got these kind of combat weapons, this is what I want to go for, or they've got this trick. So you know, it might be against certain armies with a lot of access to parry that it becomes really important to have brutal, for example, right? Harlequins have some funny extra parry stuff, don't they? And the Genestealer cults have some funny extra parry stuff. So I'm sure this can become a very versatile thing where you swap it around a little bit depending on what you're facing. But if you want a out of the box, I think personally, a lethal 5-up +1 crit is how I would do it without thinking about it too hard. Just to push some plastic and roll some dice. If you've got an alternative or competing suggestion, let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate that. Okay. Good. Now, over here, he's got some other things. So he's got that Revolting Resilient and that Techno Curse. Thrice Cursed Hulk. So essentially what this says is that he can't claim cover from light terrain or from wound operatives with a wounds characteristic of less than 15. So the other Hulks can claim him cover, and heavy cover can claim him cover. Light cover doesn't help him at all because he's massive. And lead the infection in the generate commands point step of each strategy phase if he's within a circle of an objective marker that he's not tainted. He taints the marker and you gain 1 CP. Now, I've seen some people saying that you want to hold him at the back so he can camp on a marker, but once he's tainted it once, you have to move him up to the next. So he is happily going to move up. He's going to be a little bit behind the rest of your force, because I reckon you do want him to taint your home objective in the first turning point, and then he's going to move up and he's going to taint more things as he goes along. Notice that the ability to taint doesn't require an action, okay? It just happens. So it's in the generate command point step. So if you deploy him on the objective, if you're lucky enough to have one in your deployment zone, then you taint it. If you can't deploy an objective, then you're going to move on to an objective so that turn 2, he can taint it and get a CP, and then you move him on towards another objective for him to taint. So he's always going to be in the kind of vanguard, but he's not camping right at the back hugging the objective, because he needs to move on to further objectives to get you those extra CP. And you do have some good things to spend your CP on. I don't think they're as CP hungry as the Star Striders, but everybody likes CP. The Bloat Spawn. So this is the next one of our big Hulks that we have, right? So we've gone down to 18 wounds because it's not the leader. So he had the extra wound for being a leader. Otherwise, our stat block is the same. He has to pay more to do pickup or mission actions. So each time the operative will perform a mission action or the pickup action, you must subtract 1 additional action point to do so. So this Nightmare Hulk rule, all of the other, if we just look, all the other non-leader Hulks have that same Nightmare Hulk rule, right? Whereas Vulgar Thrice Horse doesn't. He has the better Thrice Cursed Hulk, so he can actually do objective stuff. These guys, all 3 of them, you're just using them to go and kill. They're going to kill. They're not interacting with missions really, because they've only got 2 action points. So unless you're really doing something wrong, you don't want to be doing anything with the missions with these. They also have the same thing where they can't be benefiting from light terrain or from the smaller operatives. Now, his particular things that he has. So, Tentacled Grasp. Each time an enemy operative will perform a fallback action while within engagement range of the operative. Roll a d6. Add 1 if they have any wounds. Add 1 if they have a wounds characteristic 8 or less. On a 4+, they can't fall back, but the action points they tried to spend are refunded. fine, but it's funny. But how often do people only fall back in this game? Like once in every 10 games, someone tries to do a fallback move. Maybe that's just because I'm playing with really low skilled players. I don't know. But it's funny, but you're not going to build around it. Swipe. So this is on his. So we should look at his weapon block. Sorry, Mutant Tentacles is one of these range blue, like the whip. He can do his ranged attack at. He can do his close combat attack at range. So it's 6 dice hitting on 4s, 3, 4. Generally speaking, with these kinds of characters, I think it's always better to stand there and do the ranged attack if you can, because then you're hitting the opponent more. They're not hitting you. They're getting less chance to negate your stuff. But then again, of course, they do get their defense rolls. But generally speaking, I prefer to do the ranged attack. If you want to charge into combat, you can. And then you've got a choice. So you can do Grasp and Slash or Writhing Swipe. So Grasp and Slash is the same profile as your Mutant Tentacles. So generally speaking, I'd prefer to do the Mutant Tentacles than to do the Grasp and Slash. If you have an opportunity where you can use Swipe, it's a multi-model target thing. It's better than Reap as well. Let's look at it. Swipe each time after this operative fights in combat with this profile. If it's not been incapacitated, you can fight in combat with this weapon profile again. Against another enemy operative within engagement range of it that has not fought during this action. This means each enemy operative within this operative's engagement range can only be fought once per action. So you can charge them into a big cluster. If your opponent's playing Horde team and they have clustered their models up, you charge them into a big cluster. You can do a writhing swipe at everybody that you're in range with. It'll be a Horde team if you're doing Writhing Swipe, and therefore they're likely to have 7 or 8 wounds. And therefore you may actually get lucky and kill, 2, 3 characters if you're in that position. That's pretty good. Grasp and Slash is okay, but I would be trying to get the Mutant Tentacles off, personally. Good. Flesh Screamer! Or, yeah, Flesh is Screamer. I don't know. Flesh Screamer. So it's another Nightmare Hulk, obviously. Horrifying Shrieker. So, Horrifying Shrieking. Each time a enemy operative will perform mission action or the pickup action while within blue of this operative, one additional action point must be subtracted for that enemy operative to perform that action. When determining control of an objective marker, this operative is in a circle of treats enemy operative's total APL as being 1 less. This is a great disruption piece. I love these kind of things where you can go and really interfere with your opponent's sort of maths of their action economy to be able to interact with the objectives. Really, really good. Really, really good. Really strong. I enjoy those. He also has his Mutant Fist and Cleaver, which has 2 attack profiles. I really like Bash and Slash. So 5 dice, hitting off 4s, 5, 6 damage is strong. Lopping Blow, 1 dice, hit on a 3, 8, 9, lethal 5 up. Look, if you're fighting against somebody that has 8 wounds left, yes. If they have 9 wounds left, you could risk it for a biscuit. It's good fun. You might get a 5+. You got a 1/3 chance of killing them outright. I quite like that. Right? It might be worth a command reroll. If they've got 9 wounds, just to slice their head off. I'm thinking like any kind of 9 wound model, but 8 is the threshold that's more usual, right? You got your Sister Superiors on 8. You've got a lot of teams that are all on bulk 8. So against those weenies, yeah, Lopping Blow, and against anything stronger, you want to go for Bash and Slash because you get the 5 dice, and you are going to go and do a decent amount of damage with it, so it's good. Lumberghast. Again, another Nightmare Hulk. This guy has a straightforwardly strong melee weapon. It's 6/7 brutal, 4 dice. Good, fine. Yep, there's not much to talk about with that other than, yeah, he wants to get in and punch things really well. And he has spiked charge, so he can do a free charge when he basically does D3 mortal wounds on his charge. So instead of charging, you do a spiked charge. It's the same as a charge, but you do D3 mortal wounds against everyone in engagement range as well. So if you charge into that number of people, you're going to do D3 to all of them, which is pretty good. Hopefully, you're going to do an extra mortal wound, which means that you can kill an 8 wound model with your crit. If you do 2 mortal wounds, you can kill an 8 wound model with your 6s, so that's good. Excellent. Love them. The Gellerpox mutants. So, they're GA2, but you get 3. So 2 are activating together, and 1's activating on its own. Remember, group activation, without a special rule, only activates other things with the same name. So it doesn't matter. There are some little things later on that we're going to look at that also have GA, but they don't all get GA together. It's just the things with the same, the same name. Okay. So they all have frag grenades. Some people think, oh my gosh, 3 frag grenades, they're going to get FAQ'd. I don't think so. I think 3 frag grenades is fine. I think that's working as intended. You get 3 guys with frag grenades, so you got 3 frag grenades. Good, fine. The people that really like frag grenades are going to think this is overpowered, but I'm not one of those people. You get 1 with the heavy axe. The heavy axe is 3, 4, 4, 5 brutal. That's really good. He's actually as good a hitter, really, as your big brutes as well. So you've got your 4 brutes plus this guy that are all really capable of beating the snot out of people. The other 2 are stuck with the improvised weapon, which is 2, 3, hitting on 4, 4 dice. It is relentless. It's not very good. They're kind of wandering around, aren't they? Going to go, oh, look, objectives. We're going to try and do things, push buttons, receive bacon, that kind of thing. Yeah. They only have 7 wounds, but they do have these Gellerpox. I want to call them Gellerpox, but they're not. They're Gellerpox masks. Each time this operative fights in combat or a shooting attack is made against it in the resolve successful hit step of that combat or shooting attack, each time an attack dice would affect critical damage, you can choose the attack dice to inflict normal damage. It's pretty good. It's going to let you get more than 1 hit in combat, isn't it? Because you can stop somebody from 1 hitting you with a big crit. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. Obviously, they've only got a move of 2 circle, which is the big handicap here. It'd be nice if we can move them a bit faster, but there we go. Def 3, 5 up save. They got that invulnerable save as well. They got Techno Curse and 7 wounds. And then the Glitchlings, the little nurgling fellas, so they've got a normal move, APL2, GA2. You get 4, but you move in 2 pairs. They only have 3 wounds, right? But basically what these are... they have weapons, but the weapons are pretty useless. They have a 5 up invulnerable save, as well as the... feel no pain, so they're a little bit more resilient than they look, but they're still not particularly resilient. What they have is they can't have equipment ever, and if they're concealed, they're always concealed, even if people have advantage to them. The basic purpose of these little glitchlings, as far as I can tell, is that you wibble them around, and they've got that big radius on their Techno Curse, so you wibble them around, debuffing people's shooting attacks. They can do actions. They haven't got anything on them, unlike the equipment things that we're going to look at here. They don't have anything on them that says they can't do actions, so they can happily do actions as well. So that's pretty good as well. The Glitchlings are super fine. I think they'll struggle in Into the Dark to find a niche because of the walls not allowing them to do their Techno Curse through the wall. But you do still need people to run around opening doors, doing stuff so that your Nightmare Hulks don't have to worry about that stuff is still going to be super useful. Equipment's very strange then. So the equipment they have is the Mutoid Vermin, right? So you get 10 equipment points to spend on Mutoid Vermin. Mutoid Vermin all cost 3 EP for the first one and 2 EP for each additional one of the same type. So realistically, you can either have 1 of each, right? So you can have a Curse Mite, an Ice Swinger Swarm, and a Sludge Grub for 3 EP each for 9 EP. You can have 4 of the same, so 4 Curse Mites, 4 Ice Swinger Swarms, or 4 Sludge Grubs for 9 EP. Or you could choose to have 3 of the same and 1 other, which is probably the best combination because these all have GA2, and therefore if you have 3 the same, that's 2 activations, and then a 4th one of a different name, that gives you 4 activations. Yeah? No. 3 activations. Yeah? So 1 paired activation, 1 single activation, and 1 additional activation. So it's probably the best. If you think more activations is better, however, if you think that having 2 sets to double activate with is better for your strategy, then 4 of the same can be fine as well. That's for you to choose. They've all got this universal rule Mutoid Vermin, which basically means they can only perform universal actions. So they can move, shoot, fall back, etc. Right, they can't pick things up, and they can't do mission actions. But they can fall back for only 1 AP, which is fine. And they can buff other operatives to allow them to fall back for 1 AP, which is interesting. Okay, so it says here, All other operatives can perform the fallback action for one less action point to a minimum of 1 AP if they are only within engagement range of enemy Mutoid Vermin operatives. Oh no, sorry, I've misread that, isn't it? That is for your enemies only having to pay 1 AP to run away from you. That's not a buff at all. I'm just wrong. So they can't buff. They don't buff. No. And they don't. That's not happening, right? They can never control objective markers. They can never have equipment. They're kind of hard to get any use out of, really. Let's have a look at them. So here are our 3 vermin that we're choosing from. We've got the Curse Mite, the Eye Stinger Swarm, and the Sludge Grub. So the Curse Mite and the Eye Stinger Swarm move through 2 APL, GA2, Def 2, 5 up save, 2 wounds. The Sludge Grub is slower. So the Sludge Grub only has 2 circle of move, sorry. Right, so what we've got is the Curse Mite has a blood-sucking proboscis, 2 dice, hits on 4s, 2/3, with rending and the Feast special rule. Feast means that if you're fighting in combat with the weapon against an enemy operative that has fewer than its starting number of wounds, you get an extra attack to bring up to 3 attacks, and you get lethal 5 up. Okay. The Eye Stinger Swarm has a ranged and a combat weapon, both 5 dice. The ranged is hitting on 6s, doesn't do any damage, range red, no cover, and you stun. And then the combat one is 5 dice hitting on 5s, does 1 or 2 damage, and also has stun. And then finally, the Sludge Grub has 4 dice hitting on 4s, 2 damage, range red, AP 1, splash 1. So splash means on a crit, effectively it's 2/3, so that's 2/3 AP 1. And in combat, you've got some useless 2 dice for hitting on 4s, 2/3 fanged more. And the Sludge Grub has Caustic Demise. So if it's incapacitated, you roll a d6 for each enemy operative visible to it within circle. On a 4-up, it suffers a mortal wound. So I think the Sludge Grubs, I want to like them because actually their ranged attack is interesting, but they're so slow and they're short ranged. I don't think they're ever going to get any work done for you. What I think these are basically for is getting into combat alongside something more worthwhile and giving you that bonus, that ganging up bonus for being in combat. I think the Eye Stinger Swarm probably has the most utility because it has that stun weapon, which is actually going to be useful to you. None of these are really doing that much damage. I think what you probably go for is either 3 Eye Stingers and a Curse Mite or 4 Eye Stingers. If you disagree, let me know. I think mostly you should go for 3 Eye Stingers and a Curse Mite. The Curse Mite is slightly punchier than the Eye Stingers, but not enough to mean anything to anybody. I want to like the Sludge Grubs, though. Like, they're funny and cool little vomit maggots with AP1, which is pretty neat, but I don't think they're going to be useful to you. So I reckon you're probably mostly adding 3 of these and 1 of these Curse Mites into all of your lists. But the nice thing about them is, because they're equipment, you can bring all your models with you to your event. You can change it up every single time you play, and you don't even have to roster them right on your roster or do anything. Okay. Ploys. You have a lot of ploys, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ploys. Let's go through them. So Blessings of Pox for 1 CP. Until the end of the turning point each time a shooting attack is made against a friendly Gellerpox infected operative at the end of the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack. If the total results of your discarded failed saves is 7 or more, you can retain 1 failed save as a successful normal save again. It's weird, it's fluffy because 7 is the sacred number of Nurgle and all that stuff. I think it's reasonably likely to get you an extra normal save. Right? Because, like, if we look at, like, Def 3, 5 up. Like, Def 3, 5 up is all of these things, isn't it? Generally speaking. So you're rolling 3 dice, hitting on 5s. Chances are that you're going to... Chances are that you're going to miss with 2 of them. Fail your save. Chances are, average roll on 2d6 is 7. Happen to know from many years playing War Machine. Therefore... you're likely enough to get an extra normal save most of the time. Yeah? So maybe you want to always turn on Blessings of Pox because you're going to keep all your stuff alive. Like, that's pretty good. It's effectively going to be an extra normal save most of the time for your entire force. Pretty good. Blessings of Infection. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Gellerpox infected operative fights in combat, at the end of the roll attack next step of the combat, if the total result of your discarded failed hits is 3 or more, you can retain a failed hit as a successful normal hit. So it seems much more likely than the Blessings of Pox, but also less useful, because I think that like, my way of thinking about combat is that you're going to hit once, maybe twice, and then you're probably going to, you know, getting those extra hits in usually isn't that important unless your opponent's got some free parries and they're trying to parry you out in some way. But I think that that's less impressive to me. Drawn to the Hum. So this is weird. It's 1 plus CP. So select one objective marker each time a friendly Gellerpox infected operative within red of it can immediately... each friendly Gellerpox infected operative within red of it can immediately perform a free dash action, but must finish that move closer to it. It costs 1 additional command point for each previous time you've used it in the battle. So I think you only use this once for 1 CP, but 1 CP to give your entire army a free dash towards the nearest objective marker. It could be really useful on certain maps. Yeah, because you can just select one that's far away in the enemy's deployment zone and effectively get a free dash at the start of the game. In a melee turn, that's no bad thing. I don't know whether you'd keep wanting to spend for it because you want to want the CP for later on. Okay. Rust Emanations. I really like this ability. So it's one of these. Until the end of the turning point, while an enemy operative within engagement range of a friendly Gellerpox infected, excluding the Mutoid Vermins, the enemy operative is treated as being injured, regardless of any rules they have saying they can't be injured. Only subtract circle from their movement characteristic as a result of being injured if they activated within engagement range. I love things that make your opponent injured. In a big combat turn, if I had 1 CP to spend, I would go for Rust Emanations before I would go for Blessings of Infection, because I think Rust Emanations is going to help you more than the Blessings of Infection. Pollute Stockpile is a weird one, but a very powerful one. 1 CP, use it at the start of the select equipment step. Select one item of equipment from your opponent's faction army list. Select one of the following effects. Either your opponent must spend 1 additional equipment point each time they select that item of equipment for the battle, or your opponent can only select that item of equipment for a battle a maximum of 1 time. So this absolutely devastates certain teams, including the 2 we've looked at most recently, the Star Striders, who want to take Carapace armor like 5 times. The Navy, who want to load up on stims probably like 9 or 10 times. But also Novitiates, who really like auto-chastisers, right? Really screws them over. If you think of anyone else that gets particularly screwed over by Pollute Stockpile, do let me know down in the comments. But a really good ability. And it's really going to unbalance your opponent because they come in with a plan, a game plan, and you unbalance the game plan, and it's going to psychologically kind of tilt them off centre for a little while as well. Really, really powerful. Barge for 1 CP. Use this tactical ploy when a friendly Nightmare Hulk operative is activated. Until the end of the activation, that operative can move around, across, and over other operatives and their bases as if they were not there, and can perform a charge and normal move actions within engagement range of enemy operatives, but must finish moves following all requirements required by the move, and cannot finish moves on top of other operatives or their bases. It's pretty cool. It's situational but nice to have. In Gallodark, with those packed corridors, I'm betting that Barge is going to be really useful for stopping your Hulks getting bunged up where they don't want to be, getting them down to kill the leader or the heavy gunner or whoever it is that's giving you grief, and just ignoring all the other chaff that's in the way. Really good. Really, really good. Putrescent Demise. This is one of those lacklustre abilities where you spend a CP when you die and you inflict a mortal wound, or your Hulks inflict D3 mortal wounds on all the operatives within a circle. Fine. If it happens to come up that you've had a big combat and they're alive on 1 or 2 wounds and you die and you spend your CP and you kill them, great. But it's not going to come up that often. Frightening Onslaught. 1 CP. Play after a friendly Nightmare Hulk operative performs the fight action. If it's still within engagement range of an enemy operative, you can immediately fight again. This does not cost any action points, and you do not have to select the same target. Situational, but a really excellent tool to have in your toolbox. Right? I tend to live by the maxim that after a fight phase, one of you is going to be dead. But I think probably these Hulks have so many wounds that might not be the case. So yeah, Frightening Onslaught, why not? Good. Tac Ops. Rampant Nightmare. Reveal this tac op in the target reveal step of any turning point. Start a Rampant Nightmare tally for your kill team. Add a 1 to the tally each time an enemy operative loses a wound as a result of one of your Nightmare Hulk operatives within that enemy operative's engagement range. If your Rampant Nightmare tally is 30 or more, you score a VP. If it's 50 or more, you score a VP. I don't know. Are your Hulks going to do 30 or 50 wounds? I don't think. Are they? My gut instinct is no, but I'm fully prepared for someone to go, no, you're wrong because. Right? My gut instinct is that you're going to struggle to do 50 wounds. Pestilent Hosts. This is confusingly written, but let's go for it. Reveal this tac op the first time an enemy operative is incapacitated. Each time an enemy operative is incapacitated, before it's removed from the kill zone, place one of your Pestilent Host tokens underneath the operative as close as possible to the centre of its base. At the end of each turning point, add each Pestilent Host token that friendly Gellerpox infected operatives have to your Pestilent Host token pool. So what I think this means is that when you kill someone, and you're going to be killing almost everybody that you kill in close combat because you've got very few guns, they drop a token, right? And then you stand on there on that token. At the end of the turning point, you then can pick that token up off the board and put it to the side of the board in your Pestilent Host token pool. That seems pretty good because you're taking it. Doesn't matter then if your guy dies, he doesn't drop his tokens, he's not carrying the tokens. You don't have to be keeping the tokens. You just have to kill somebody and then not move off their corpse until the end of that turning point, and then you can pick it up and take it off the board and put it in your pool, which is off on one side of the board. That seems pretty good. You've got to beat equal to more than a third of the number of enemy operatives. You get one. And if it's equal to more than 2/3 of the number of enemy operatives, you get another one. Against elite teams, I think that's probably easier to score. Against horde teams, yeah, you got a lot of tools to clear to scythe the chaff, I guess. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. I like that. Tech Infection. You must reveal this tac op when a friendly operative performs the Tech Infection action. See below. If 3 or more objective markers are tech infected by your kill team, you score 1. If 4 or more are infected by your kill team, you score 1. And basically, it's an extra action point on an objective you controlled that's not previously been tech infected to tech infect the objective, which seems pretty good. You're going to want to run onto objectives and do things on them in a lot of game types. However, in some maps, you're not going to be able to do this because there's not going to be 4 objective markers. There may not even be 3 objective markers. So you can't always put it in because on some maps it's not going to be useful. Okay. Right, and we're just about done. So final thoughts. First of all, it's now Sunday, and there was no video on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Sorry about that. I have just been feeling really kind of anxious and about a lot of things without wanting to go. You know, as I've said on the channel before, myself and Mrs. Tails Impulse are expecting a baby like literally any day now, and the world is being difficult, but here's the video. I'm in a headspace to do the video today, so good. I still do want to do a Kroot video, and then when I get the terrain painted and stuff, there's going to be a video kind of going through that painting of the terrain and things like that. What else? So there'll be no video tomorrow, but then hopefully on Tuesday, maybe perhaps a video. I really don't know. Right, the baby could come any day now, so there'll be videos when the videos are ready, I'm afraid. I might do some Star Wars Legion content on the channel. I'm umming and ahhing over it. So, those of you that on the Discord have already seen Zimbab bought me a Star Wars Legion fellow as a late birthday present after we talked about it on the stream. And I painted him, and now I want to play a game with him, so I've bought some more fellows. Maybe I'll talk about Star Wars Legion. Let me know if that would be great or horrifying in the comments. And consider subscribing. If you've watched this far and you're not subscribed, like we are like 140 something subscribers away from a big 4-digit 1,000 subs. I'd really love to get to 1,000 subs, so please do consider subscribing. I'm really pleased to see the subscribers are ticking up even when I don't upload. So people are finding my other videos and watching them and going, he's pretty cool, we'll subscribe. And that really gladdens my heart. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe today. Thank you very, very much. And I will see you next time, whenever that will be. Cheery bye. Cheery bye.